Hollywood's golden age was full of unforgettable faces. But what if some of those faces weren't entirely original? We're not talking about movie magic. We're talking about uncanny resemblances to real people from the past. Prepare to have your mind blown as we connect the dots between big-screen legends and their historical twins. You won't believe which movie star shares a face with one of England's most famous queens. 1. James Dean and Emperor Severus Alexander. It's a comparison so striking it has become a legend on the internet. On one hand, you have James Dean, the ultimate symbol of 1950s cool and teenage rebellion. With his intense, brooding stare and iconic hairstyle, he became a superstar in just 3 major films before his life was cut short. He represented a new kind of actor, one who was sensitive, misunderstood, and simmering with emotion just below the surface. His roles in East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant turned him into a cultural icon whose posters still hang on bedroom walls today. He was the face of a generation that didn't feel like it fit in. Now, travel back in time nearly 1700 years earlier. Meet Severus Alexander, a Roman emperor who ruled in the 3rd century. When you look at the marble busts sculpted in his image, the resemblance is jaw-dropping. It's all there. The same thoughtful brow, the deep-set eyes that seem to be staring into the distance, and the full, slightly pouty lips. Even the wavy hair on the sculpture seems to fall in a way that reminds you of Dean's famous hairdo. Severus Alexander was also a young ruler who came to power under difficult circumstances, and was known for his mild and well-meaning nature, a stark contrast to the typically harsh emperors of the era. It's an uncanny link between 2 young men, separated by millennia, who both carried a heavy weight on their shoulders and shared the exact same unforgettable face. 2. Henry Fonda and Abraham Lincoln. Sometimes, an actor is just born to play a certain role. That was the case with Henry Fonda, one of Hollywood's most respected and talented stars, and his portrayal of America's 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Fonda was known for playing characters who were decent, honest, and full of integrity, which made him a natural fit to play Honest Abe. But the connection was more than just personality. It was written all over his face and in his very posture. Henry Fonda was a tall, lanky man with a long, thoughtful face, high cheekbones, and deep-set, soulful eyesol features famously associated with Lincoln. When director John Ford cast him in the 1939 film Young Mr. Lincoln, the resemblance was so powerful that it became a key part of the movie's magic. With a little movie makeup, including a prosthetic nose and a small beard, Fonda didn't just look like Lincoln, he seemed to become him. He captured the president's quiet strength, his folksy wisdom, and the deep sadness that always seemed to linger in his eyes. The similarity was so profound that Fonda himself felt a deep connection to the role, and it became one of the most acclaimed performances of his career. It's a perfect example of how an actor's natural appearance can make them the only person on Earth who could truly bring a historical giant to life, making audiences feel like they were getting a glimpse of the real man. 3. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Grand Duke George Mikhailovich. This is one of those historical doppelganger cases that is so perfect, it feels like it has to be a trick. On one side, we have Douglas Fairbanks Jr., a dashing and debonair star of Hollywood's golden age. As the son of a silent film legend, he had big shoes to fill, but he carved out his own successful career playing charming adventurers, handsome heroes, and sophisticated gentlemen in films like The Prisoner of Zenda and Gunga Din. He had a certain regal quality, a natural elegance that made him believable as royalty or high-ranking officers. He was also a real-life war hero, adding to his impressive legacy. On the other side of this mirror image is Grand Duke George Mikhailovich of Russia, a cousin to the last Tsar, Nicholas II. When you see photographs of the Grand Duke from the late 19th and early 20th centuries and place them next to photos of Fairbanks Jr., the resemblance is uncanny. They share the same deep-set eyes, the same prominent nose, and the exact same style of mustache that was popular at the time. Their facial structure, from jawline to forehead, is a near-perfect match. It's so close that you could easily mistake one for the other if the photos weren't labeled. This striking similarity adds a strange layer to Fairbanks Jr.'s career, as he often played characters who moved in the kind of royal circles his Russian look-alike actually belonged to. It's a fascinating coincidence that links a Hollywood prince with a real Russian Grand Duke. 4. Lillian Gish and Queen Victoria. Lillian Gish was one of the very first movie stars, known as the First Lady of American cinema. Her career began in the silent film era, where her expressive face and wide, innocent eyes could tell a whole story without a single word. She was famous for playing fragile, pure-hearted heroines who faced incredible hardship. Her delicate features saw a small, heart-shaped face, a Cupid's bow mouth, and those enormous, soulful eyes made her the image of delicate femininity and inner strength for a generation of moviegoers. Her look was both timeless and very specific to the Victorian and Edwardian ideals of beauty. Now, take a look at portraits and early photographs of Britain's Queen Victoria when she was a young woman, long before she became the stern, black-clad figure we often remember. In her youth, Victoria possessed a strikingly similar face to Lillian Gish. She had the same small, delicate features, the same wide-set, slightly sad eyes, and a similar mouth. Both women had a serious, almost wistful expression that made them seem wise beyond their years. The resemblance is particularly strong when comparing photographs of a young Gish from the 1910s with portraits of Victoria from the 1830s and 40s. It's a surprising link between the biggest female star of the silent screen and the young queen, who would go on to define an entire era, showing how a certain look of gentle power can echo through the centuries. 5. Tyrone Power and Emperor Trajan. Tyrone Power was the definition of a Hollywood leading man in the 1930s and 40s. He was breathtakingly handsome, with a heroic profile that was perfect for the swashbuckling adventure films he starred in. Whether he was playing Zorro, a dashing pirate, or a brave pilot, Power had a classic, almost sculpted look. His dark, wavy hair, strong jawline, straight nose, and intense gaze made him seem like he could have stepped right out of a history book. He had a timeless quality that made him believable in any historical setting, from ancient Rome to 18th century Spain. It's that carved-from-stone quality that makes his resemblance to the Roman Emperor Trajan so compelling. Trajan, who ruled from 98 to 117 AD, is remembered as one of Rome's 5 good emperors. He was a successful soldier and a respected public administrator, known for his ambitious building projects. When you look at the marble busts and statues of Trajan that have survived for nearly 2 millennia, you see the face of Tyrone Power staring back at you. They share that same heroic profile, the strong brow, the noble set of the mouth, and a powerful jaw. It's the kind of face you'd see on a Roman coin. A face that communicates strength, authority, and classical good looks. It's no wonder Power was so convincing as a historical hero. He had the face of one of history's most celebrated emperors. 6. Jean Tierney and Isabella of Portugal. Jean Tierney was an actress whose beauty was often described as otherworldly. With her stunningly high cheekbones, captivating green eyes, and an elegant, serene expression, she was one of the great beauties of the 1940s. She often played mysterious, sophisticated, and sometimes dangerous women in classic films like Laura and Leave Her to Heaven. Her face was so perfectly symmetrical and her features so refined that she seemed to belong to another, more graceful time. There was an aristocratic quality to her look, as if she were descended from royalty. This regal quality makes her a spitting image of Isabella of Portugal, the Holy Roman Empress and wife of Charles V in the 16th century. Isabella was also legendary for her beauty and intelligence. In portraits painted by the great artist Titian, Empress Isabella is shown with an oval face, high cheekbones, a delicate, straight nose, and a calm, dignified expression that is astonishingly similar to Jean Tierney's. They share a similar hairline and a long, graceful neck. Both women projected an aura of cool, collected elegance and possessed a kind of beauty that was both striking and gentle. Looking at a portrait of Isabella, it's easy to imagine her being played by Jean Tierney in a lavish historical drama. It's a testament to a classic, timeless beauty that looks just as captivating in a 16th century oil painting as it does in a 1940s film noir. 7. Orson Welles and Niccolò Machiavelli. Orson Welles was a true genius of stage and screen, a larger-than-life figure whose ambition and talent were immense. He shook up the world with his 1938 War of the Worlds radio broadcast and revolutionized cinema with his masterpiece, Citizen Kane. As he grew older, Welles became a formidable figure, known for his booming voice, his imposing physical presence, and his sharp, penetrating intelligence. His face, particularly in his later years, was heavy with thought, with a furrowed brow and eyes that seemed to have seen it all. He often played powerful, complex, and sometimes cynical characters who understood the darker side of human nature. This image of a brooding, brilliant thinker makes him a perfect double for Niccolò Machiavelli, the famous Italian diplomat and writer from the Florentine Republic. Machiavelli lived during the Renaissance and wrote The Prince, a book on political philosophy that is still studied and debated today. In portraits, Machiavelli is depicted with features that are hauntingly similar to the older Orson Welles. He has the same heavy-lidded, knowing eyes, the same prominent nose, and a similar downturned mouth that suggests a cynical or deeply realistic view of the world. Both men had faces that reflected a powerful intellect and a deep understanding of power and strategy. You could easily imagine Orson Welles playing Machiavelli, delivering his famous lines about politics with a knowing glint in his eye, making this a pairing of two great, formidable minds who just happened to share a face. 8. Vincent Price and Erasmus. Vincent Price is the undisputed king of classy horror. With his tall, slender frame, his elegant yet menacing voice, and his distinctive facial features, he brought a sense of sophistication to the macabre. He was the star of countless horror classics, playing everything from mad scientists to haunted aristocrats. His face was his fortune. A long, narrow shape, a high forehead, a thin, aquiline nose, and a wide, expressive mouth that could curl into a sinister smile or a look of theatrical terror. He looked like a man who belonged in a dusty old library, surrounded by ancient books and dark secrets. His unique, intellectual look makes him an almost perfect match for Erasmus of Rotterdam, one of the most important scholars of the Northern Renaissance. Erasmus was a Dutch philosopher and Catholic theologian who was a major figure in classical literature and theology. When you look at the famous portraits of him painted by Hans Holbein the Younger, the resemblance to Vincent Price is staggering. Erasmus has the same long, thin face, the same high forehead, and the same distinctively shaped nose and thin lips. Even the thoughtful, slightly world-weary expression in the portraits feels like a look Vincent Price would adopt just before delivering a chilling monologue. It's as if the master of horror was the reincarnation of the great humanist scholar, a link between two men, centuries apart, who both had faces that were unforgettable, intellectual, and just a little bit spooky. 9. Clark Gable and a Civil War soldier. Clark Gable was called the King of Hollywood, and for good reason. For over 3 decades, he was the definition of a rugged, all-American leading man. He wasn't classically handsome in a pretty boy way. He was masculine and confident, with a mischievous grin, a strong jaw, and famously prominent ears. He had a tough guy charm that made him a massive star in films like It Happened One Night and Gone with the Wind. He looked like a man who was comfortable on a battlefield, on a farm, or in a fancy ballroom. He was also a real-life war hero, flying combat missions in World War II, which only added to his heroic image. His rugged, timeless American face is why he bears such a strong resemblance to many of the men seen in photographs from the American Civil War. While there isn't one specific famous person he looks like, his facial features are a perfect match for the type of soldier you see in countless tintype photos from the 1860s. The shape of his face, the set of his eyes, his famous mustache, and even those ears can be spotted on anonymous soldiers from both the Union and the Confederacy. In particular, there is a widely circulated photo of a Confederate artilleryman who looks so much like Gable that it's startling. It's a reminder that Gable's appeal was rooted in a look that was deeply Americana, a face that was strong, familiar, and could have belonged to any of the ordinary men who fought in the nation's most defining conflict. 10. Joan Crawford and Lucretia Borgia. Joan Crawford had one of the most iconic and recognizable faces in Hollywood history. She was famous for her incredible ambition and for transforming herself from a dancer into one of the biggest and most enduring movie stars of all time. Her look was dramatic and powerful. It was all about the eyes, large, intense, and hypnotic, and her strong, prominent cheekbones and a wide, perfectly defined mouth. Her face conveyed strength, determination, and a hint of danger. She wasn't a soft, delicate beauty. She was a force of nature, and her face showed it. This powerful and intense look makes her a fascinating parallel to Lucrezia Borgia, one of the most notorious women of the Italian Renaissance. Lucrezia was the daughter of a pope and was often used as a political pawn in her family's ambitious schemes for power. She was rumored to be ruthless and cunning, though many modern historians believe her reputation was unfairly tarnished. In portraits, Lucretia is often depicted with features that call to mind Joan Crawford. She has the same wide-set, commanding eyes, a high forehead, and a strong jawline. Both women had a face that suggested a complex and powerful personality lurking just beneath the surface. It's a striking connection between a Hollywood legend known for playing strong-willed women and a historical noblewoman whose name became synonymous with power and intrigue. 11. Lee Marvin and Andrew Johnson. Lee Marvin was one of Hollywood's toughest tough guys. With his prematurely white hair, a deep, gravelly voice, and a face that looked like it had seen its share of brawls, he was the perfect actor to play hardened soldiers, ruthless cowboys, and gritty detectives. He wasn't a traditionally handsome leading man, but he had a powerful screen presence that was impossible to ignore. His most distinctive features were his piercing, deep-set eyes, which could be intimidating and weary at the same time, and a strong, square jaw. He won an Oscar for playing a drunken gunslinger in Cat Ballou, proving he could be funny and scary all at once. His tough, weathered face bears a remarkable resemblance to Andrew Johnson, the 17th President of the United States, who took office after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Johnson was a controversial figure who presided over the first years of Reconstruction. In photographs and portraits, Johnson has the same intensely deep-set eyes, a similar heavy brow, and a stern, unsmiling mouth that mirrors Lee Marvin's signature look. Their facial structure, particularly the powerful jaw and the lines around the eyes, is incredibly similar. Both men had faces that looked carved from granite, suggesting a stubborn, unyielding personality. It's an unexpected but fitting match, linking a Hollywood hard man with one of America's most embattled and tough-as-nails presidents. 12. Bette Davis and Queen Elizabeth I. This is a case where an actress didn't just look like a historical figure. She seemed to channel her spirit. Bette Davis was a Hollywood powerhouse, known for her fearless performances and her refusal to be just another pretty face. She was famous for her mesmerizing, enormous eyes, which she used with incredible skill to convey every possible emotion. But she also had a high forehead, a thin, determined mouth, and an imperious quality that made her perfect for playing strong, difficult, and powerful women. She wasn't afraid to be unglamorous if the role demanded it. It's this unique combination of features that made her the absolute perfect choice to play Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen who ruled England for over 40 years during the 16th century. Bette Davis played the Queen not once, but twice, in the films The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex, 1939, and The Virgin Queen, 1955. With her hairline shaved back to match the Queen's famously high forehead and dressed in elaborate period costumes, the resemblance was breathtaking. She didn't just look like the famous portraits of Elizabeth I. She captured her fiery intelligence, her vanity, her strength, and her loneliness. Davis's own powerful personality and her distinctive eyes seemed to merge with the historical image of the Queen, creating one of the most convincing and memorable historical portrayals in cinema history. It was a case of the right face and the right spirit finding the right role. 13. Errol Flynn and Sir Kenelm Digby. Errol Flynn was the king of the swashbucklers. In the 1930s and 40s, he was the handsome, athletic star who defined the action hero for a generation. With a sword in his hand and a twinkle in his eye, he played characters like Robin Hood, Captain Blood, and the Seahawk with an unmatched charm and energy. He had a classic, dashingly handsome face, wavy hair, a neat mustache, bright, mischievous eyes, and a confident smile. He perfectly embodied the romantic, adventurous spirit of the heroes he played on screen. His entire persona seems to be plucked directly from the 17th century, which is why he looks so much like portraits of cavaliers from that era, especially the English courtier, diplomat, and adventurer, Sir Kenelm Digby. Digby was a real-life figure who could have been a character in an Errol Flynn movie. He was a swashbuckling adventurer, a privateer, and a natural philosopher. In portraits by the artist Anthony Van Dyck, Digby is shown with the same dashing good looks as Flynn. He has the same wavy, shoulder-length hair, the same pointed goatee and mustache, and the same look of aristocratic confidence in his eyes. Both men had the look of a romantic rogue, someone who was equally comfortable in a sword fight or a royal court. It's a striking resemblance that shows how Errol Flynn wasn't just playing a part. He was the modern embodiment of a historical archetype. 14. Ava Gardner and Nefertiti. Ava Gardner was often called the most beautiful animal in the world. Her beauty was legendary, even in a town full of beautiful people. She had a stunning face that was both earthy and exotic, with vibrant green eyes, full lips, and flawless bone structure. She became a huge star in the 1940s and 50s, known for playing sultry, passionate, and often tragic heroines. There was a timeless, almost ancient quality to her beauty, as if her face could have been worshipped in any era. Her long, graceful neck and perfect facial symmetry gave her a look that was truly classic. This classic, sculptural beauty makes her a dead ringer for one of the most famous beauties of the ancient world. Nefertiti, the great royal wife of the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten in the 14th century BC. Nefertiti's name means "the beautiful one has come," and she was celebrated for her looks. Our most famous image of her is the iconic painted limestone bust, discovered in 1912. When you look at that bust, you see the essence of Ava Gardner. Both have the same high, elegant cheekbones, the same perfectly shaped lips, a strong but delicate jawline, and, most notably, a long, slender, swan-like neck. They share a look of regal, serene, and almost divine beauty. It's a powerful connection between two women, separated by more than 3,000 years, who both represent a timeless ideal of female beauty. 15. Hedy Lamarr and Simonetta Vespucci. Hedy Lamarr was a star whose incredible beauty was so dazzling it sometimes overshadowed her other talents. Born in Austria, she came to Hollywood and became famous for her exotic, dark-haired looks. Her face was a picture of perfect symmetry, with almond-shaped eyes, arched eyebrows, and flawless skin. She often played glamorous and mysterious foreign women, but behind that stunning face was a brilliant mind. She was also a talented inventor who co-developed a radio guidance system that is a key principle behind modern Bluetooth and Wi-Fi technology. She was truly beauty and brain. Her particular style of delicate, refined beauty makes her a striking double for Simonetta Vespucci, a noblewoman from 15th century Genoa, who was considered the most beautiful woman of the Italian Renaissance. Her beauty was so legendary that she became the muse for the famous painter Sandro Botticelli, and she is believed to be the model for Venus in his masterpiece, The Birth of Venus. In portraits, Simonetta is depicted with a delicate oval face, fair skin, and finely arched brows that are incredibly similar to Hedy Lamarr's. They share a look of serene, almost ethereal grace. Both women were celebrated as the standard of beauty in their respective eras, possessing a kind of perfect, artistic loveliness that seemed almost unreal. It's a fascinating link between a Hollywood screen siren and inventor and the ultimate Renaissance-it girl. 16. Charles Boyer and Napoleon Bonaparte. Charles Boyer was a French actor who became a huge star in Hollywood, famous for playing sophisticated, romantic, and often tormented lovers. With his deep, velvety voice and his intense, penetrating gaze, he was the ideal great lover of the 1930s and 40s. He had a very distinctive face, with a prominent brow, deep-set, soulful eyes, and a receding hairline that he made look distinguished. He could convey a world of passion and longing with just a single look, which made him a heartthrob for millions. His intense, brooding look, combined with his French heritage, made him a natural to play one of history's most famous Frenchmen. Napoleon Bonaparte. Boyer played the emperor in the 1937 film Conquest, opposite Greta Garbo as his love, Marie Walewska. The physical resemblance was remarkable. Boyer had the same intense, burning eyes that are described in historical accounts of Napoleon. He shared the same high forehead and a similar facial structure to the one seen in Napoleon's famous portraits. Boyer was also not a tall man, which fit the emperor's stature. He perfectly captured Napoleon's mix of brooding genius, romantic passion, and ruthless ambition. It was another case of perfect casting, where an actor's natural appearance and demeanor made him the ideal candidate to portray a historical giant, bringing the legendary emperor to life in a way that felt authentic and powerful. 17. Marlon Brando and a Roman patrician. Marlon Brando changed acting forever. When he exploded onto the screen in the early 1950s, he was something nobody had ever seen before. He was raw, powerful, and natural. But along with his revolutionary acting style, he had a face that was a work of art. As a young man, he was stunningly handsome, but in a way that felt classical and timeless. His face had the perfection of a Greek or Roman statue. He had a strong, straight nose, full lips, a powerful jaw, and a brooding brow that made him look like a rebellious god. This look was a huge part of his appeal in films like A Streetcar Named Desire and The Wild One. This sculptural quality is why the young Brando looks exactly like the anonymous faces you see on ancient Roman patrician busts. The patricians were the ruling class of ancient Rome, and they commissioned realistic, unidealized portraits of themselves in marble. When you look at these busts in a museum, you can see Marlon Brando's face staring back at you from across the centuries. It's in the structure of the cheekbones, the shape of the nose, and the set of the mouth. He had a Roman profile that was so perfect. It's no surprise he was cast as Mark Antony in the 1953 film Julius Caesar. He looked completely at home in a toga, as if he had just stepped out of the Roman Senate. His was a face that was both modern and ancient, a classic look that will never go out of style. 18. Rita Hayworth and Titian's Labella. Rita Hayworth was the ultimate love goddess of the 1940s. A fantastically talented dancer and a captivating actress, she became a huge star and a favorite pinup girl for soldiers during World War II. Her most famous feature was her spectacular mane of flowing auburn hair, which cascaded around a face that was both glamorous and warm. She had a dazzling smile, sparkling eyes, and a vivacious energy that lit up the screen. In films like Gilda, she was the height of glamour and allure, becoming one of the most iconic stars of her generation. Her combination of fiery hair, warm skin tone, and classic beauty makes her look like she could have stepped right out of a painting by Titian, one of the master artists of the 16th century Venetian school. Titian was famous for his rich use of color and his portraits of beautiful women, often with reddish blonde hair, a look that came to be known as Titian red. In particular, Hayworth bears a striking resemblance to the woman in Titian's famous portrait, La Bella, the beautiful woman. The woman in the painting has the same soft, oval face, the same warm complexion, and the same glorious reddish hair as Rita Hayworth. They both project an image of lush, confident, and approachable beauty. It's a wonderful link between a Hollywood goddess and the ideal of beauty celebrated by one of history's greatest painters. 19. Laurence Olivier and John Jay. Sir Laurence Olivier is widely considered one of the greatest actors of the 20th century. He was a master of the stage and screen, famous for his powerful performances in Shakespearean plays like Hamlet, Henry V, and Richard III. He had a face that was incredibly versatile, capable of looking handsome and heroic in one role, and sinister or broken in the next. He had sharp, intelligent features, a long, thin nose, piercing eyes, and a determined mouth. He projected an air of authority, intelligence, and intense focus, whether he was playing a king, a general, or a tortured romantic hero. This look of sharp-witted authority makes him a surprising but convincing lookalike for John Jay, one of the founding fathers of the United States. John Jay was an important diplomat, a president of the Continental Congress, and, most notably, the very first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. In portraits, especially the famous one by Gilbert Stuart, John Jay is depicted with features that are remarkably similar to Laurence Olivier's. They share the same long, thin facial structure, the same prominent nose, and the same keen, penetrating eyes that suggest a sharp legal mind at work. Both men had the dignified and serious look of a great statesman. It's easy to imagine Olivier delivering a powerful legal argument from the bench, making this a fitting match between the king of the English stage and one of the founding pillars of American law. 20. Carole Lombard and a Gibson Girl. Carole Lombard was the queen of the screwball comedy in the 1930s. She was beautiful, glamorous, and hilarious, a rare combination in Hollywood's golden age. She had a sparkling, energetic personality that came through in every role she played. But beyond her comedic timing, she had a face that defined 1930s glamour. She had classic, elegant features, wide eyes, and a radiant smile. But it was also her posture and attitude, confident, stylish, and modern, that made her an icon. She was the smart, sassy, independent woman that everyone wanted to be. Her look and her spirit make her the living embodiment of the Gibson girl, the ideal image of American womanhood from the 1890s through the early 1900s. The Gibson girl wasn't a real person, but an illustration created by artist Charles Dana Gibson. She was depicted as tall, graceful, and elegant, but also independent, confident, and athletic. She had a stylishly upswept hairdo, a calm and intelligent expression, and a look of modern self-assurance. When you look at portraits of Carole Lombard, you see the exact same ideal brought to life. She has the same facial features, the same confident tilt of the head, and the same vibrant, independent spirit that the Gibson girl represented. Lombard was the perfect evolution of that ideal, taking the Gibson girl's independence and adding a layer of wit and madcap energy that made her a true original and a beloved movie star.